In this episode, we have a lot of attractive options when it comes to magnets. We do look at the surface mount as well as the post-it note application. We take a look at a few tools and...
No, we're not talking about you.
Of course, we turn back the clock with Bob Rivard to go... Back in time. We also check out what the curmudgeon's gripe of the week is this week. Only in this episode of SOO The Milwaukee Road. One thing to kind of take into consideration as far as your model railroad is concerned is using magnets. I'm using magnets because it works great with the Kadee system. Just want to make sure that your couplers work well. Here we have a package of 322 and 308. Differences being is that you got a surface mount and then an undermount. The undermount is what you can obviously take up your track and install these underneath. They are permanent, so if you do bury them in scenery and you can't find them,
well, that's on you.
You want to mark them, just make sure you know where they're at. And we're going to cover this a little bit more a little later in this episode, but one key element is determining where the magnet should be placed. And that's what we're going to take a look at here. And for testing purposes, you can use the 322s just to set in place if you're not ready to rip up your track and install one of the permanent magnets just yet. So it's kind of nice in that regard, as well as these come with 2 in a pack, where the 308s, they only come with 1 in a pack. So that's one thing to kind of consider. Clearly, the 322s are more cost-friendly. But what we're going to do in this particular application is install one of these 322s, but before we do, we want to determine where the actual magnet's going to land. What I've got here is an 89-foot box. Sometimes I use an auto rack, but the goal is to be able to see how much swing is in a long car to determine where the magnet's going to go. And by swing, I mean that the car comes to a straight section of track, because these things work best on a straight section of track. And what we've got here is the spur itself is at 240 feet in length. I've got 162 feet of active length, which means that that little bit of slug room, which is straight just on the right-hand side of where the magnet would be placed, that's just going to be the area that I know a car is coming in and is going to be straight, in this case the 89-footer. Another element to kind of keep in mind is that these couplers can offset. And if you set the car over the magnet itself, it will offset. So the knuckles themselves will be
offset from each other.
And then you're going to be able to shove a car into a location and then pull away from it. So then it's not sitting over the magnet when you come pick it back up. And the 308s, they offer this exact same type of feature. So it's kind of nice in that regard as well. 'Tis the time to study up on the SOO. The SOO line is looking for a locomotive design which could work in heavy haul unit train service and handle general mixed freight. New locomotives provided significant benefits by allowing unit reductions as well as reduced fuel consumption, translating into further savings.
It's all about the bottom line.
Do you know what year the SD60 set foot on the SOO? Was it A, 1984, B, 1985, C, 1986, or D, 1987?
Boy, here's a crapshoot.
We'll find out later in this episode. Now that we've determined the location of where the magnet's going to go, it's time to get it installed. We'll pop these ones out here. As you can see, there are a pair that come along with it. As we mentioned before, this is kind of your value pack. And again, these are for Code 83. I am using Code 83. They do make Code 100 if you do so choose to use Code 100 track. There is a top and a bottom. This is the bottom and this is the top. Now, if you got the right side up, you want to make sure that your ties are clean. If you got any paint or anything on them, clean that off. It's going to help with adhesion. And speaking of adhesion, what I end up using here is the Scotch double stick tape. And this tape is very thin and very sticky. So that is how I hold the magnets in place, and it's worked well on all magnets I've used. If you can't find it, you can also use the stuff that maybe your wife or your girlfriend or significant other has. Maybe you have it in your own toolbox. It works well. It's a double stick adhesive, again, much like this, but this is just a little bit more overkill.
You're all about overkill.
Again, making sure you're putting it on the back side. You can see here, we'll just lightly apply it, and I actually will apply a second coat sometimes if needed, but in this case, the stuff is thin enough. I just want to make sure I adhere and cover the whole bottom of the magnet. Any of the excess stickum that's on the outside, I just kind of roll it in because this stuff does squash down when I end up putting it in place. And, well, by putting it in place, I know I've got my mark where the center point of the magnet is. I'm actually going to move it a little bit to the left.
And kind of get it snugged in just like so.
And like anything, once you've installed something,
you got to test it out.
Yep, it works. One thing I mentioned before is offsetting a coupler. As you can see here, the knuckles have opened themselves up. If it's sitting off the magnet, it's going to couple. If it's on the magnet, both couplers kick open, and now you can shove a car and spot it.
That's magnets in a nutshell. Oh, here's a 10-second tip.
To give the aesthetic of section rail, I mark an HO scale ruler to 39 feet. I end up taking a rotary blade and just notching the top of the rail. Since this is an illusionary art, we'll dress this up later. You want an illusionary art? Put a post-it note under your track so you can remember where a magnet is.
I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
It's not actually really a post-it note, so we'll explain what it's all about here in just a moment. I plan on installing magnets all over the Hiawatha Elevator District. In this case, we're using number 308 uncoupler, which is a Kadee undermount magnet, and you do need to mount this under the track before you lay the track. And the way you do that is, well, in this case, I'm using a sonic cutter. A sonic cutter just uses real small vibrations to be able to make cuts. It's a lot cleaner. I like this particular tool to be able to have it on hand. I end up using a straight edge razor blade to clean up and smooth out any of the fine adjustments. So I go along here, get it down to the level that I need, and I'll drop the magnet in place, and, well, there you have it. Away we go. One of my favorite things beyond model railroading is actually having quality tools on hand to be able to build the model railroad. It's kind of nice to have those on hand to be able to also finish off a room, do any other projects you might have in your house. And I know you're saying, oh, this is a model railroad show. This isn't about tools. Well, tools go a long way from assembling the actual bench work to even working on stuff when you're working with scenery, drilling holes, dropping leads, whatever it might be. If you've got stuff that you need to do, I'd consider investing at least in a quality drill. Now, what kind of quality drill would you go with? In my opinion, my wife now and girlfriend at the time, she bought a set of XRP DeWalt tools. It was a kit. It had 9 different tools in it. It had 4 batteries. It was a phenomenal set. Really liked it. The batteries, they lasted 8 years. This battery lasted 2. So whatever they did in their battery game, they've lost my business because it doesn't hold a charge. I went to lithium and thought, man, maybe that'll help. Nope, doesn't do. So I ended up going over to Milwaukee. I changed to Milwaukee because I figured, hey, Milwaukee Road, why not go with Milwaukee tools? That's what I switched over to because I know a number of different people that are using the Milwaukee line. They really like it. So if you are looking around Christmas time, I know Milwaukee comes up with their drill. It's like 99 bucks. Seems like a lot for a drill because you can buy some cheap knockoff at whatever store for 20 bucks and that battery's going to last you for 20 seconds. Consider the investment because long term it'll pay off. Again, working around your home, you've got a nice tool on hand, so if you've got some project you need to take care of, even if it's coming to mixing drinks, just use your drill. How perfect is that?
Perfect. After a few drinks, my track will look straight.
All right, for you anti-Magites out there that say,
Well, I don't like a magnet because I don't like things uncoupling where you don't want it.
those permanent magnets, yes, they are permanent. Well, in this case, temporarily permanent. Same magnet that we used before, a 308 Kadee uncoupling magnet. What I've done here is actually set up a system that will be servo-driven. And as you can see, I've dug down a lot deeper than normal. I did set up a wire system that will be able to lift the magnet up and down when needed.
Driven again by a servo.
This application will generally take place on main lines. I do cover the gaping hole with a piece of heavy cover stock that will get glued in place to stop any ballast and whatnot from falling into the magnet area. If you so choose to use this particular technique, I highly suggest testing it out. As you can see here, it doesn't uncouple. I lift the magnet, and then I can get it to uncouple.
Pretty simple process.
Can we see this in action?
You bet your sweet biscuits.
Alright, you EMD SOO gurus, do you know what year the SD60s set foot on property? It was B, 1985! You say,
Whoa, how's that possible?
well, EMD1 and EMD4 demonstrators were on scene in 1985. If you guessed D, 1987, you'd be correct, because that was actually July of 87 that the first SOO SD60s were built.
Boy, you could have fooled me.
Well, he actually did fool me. Oh, I said it was D all along. I knew that. It was B and D.
Brilliant!
Hopefully you learned something. Now we can go back in time.
Rail fanning with Rivard to go. In the Hiawatha Elevator District.
While these guys are kicking cars, they provided a little chatter, so we gave you the subtitles, and we'll cover a little information on some of the cars as we go along. A brief horn honk catches these guys' attention. What was that? Where did I set my beer, eh? Oh, that's not mine. I'm drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon. You ever notice BRS 1000 on the bottom of your Nike? Well, it stands for Blue Ribbon Sports, and the 1,000, that's the $1,000 Nike started with.
Where do you come up with this stuff?
I think Doug's quest for his beer, he's kind of given up. Oh. Looks like he's gone to collecting sticks instead. He's going to use these sticks to chock the wheels so the cars don't roll. Right? You ever say to yourself, boy, I see those SOO cars even still today. Well, that's because they had 1,225 of these things. And at this point, this particular car is 8 years old, and it looks pretty good.
Is Bob still watching me? Yep. Better look away.
So we see Hank hop off here. He's throwing one of those Milwaukee Road switch stands. He's told him to kick him, and he's going to open the knuckle. You can see the car actually has started moving before old Hank has even jumped out of the way, but he gets in the clear. As we watch this car roll towards us, there's one thing we can't capture in the HO scale modeling world, and that's obviously the ruggedness of the track work. But you can look at the detail of the car. You can see a little bit of the wheel spray. It's very subtle. Again, we said this car is about 8 years old, and it's not overly beat up and torn up like I know a lot of guys will over-weather cars, but subtlety can go a long ways, especially on a white car. Well, as Hank has noted, the weather's starting to roll in, so we're going to end up wrapping this up, and hopefully we'll tune into more of these in future episodes.
Alright, here's a curmudgeon coming at you for the grab of the week. The grab of the week this week is manufacturers not making the stuff that you want. Well, you want the manufacturer to make something that you want? You go ahead and custom build it, custom paint it. You create whatever it is that you dream and only wish they'd come out with, and I tell you what, you make it, you custom paint it, you decal it, you do all the work, and they'll come out with it. That's just how it works. That's the old curmudgeon's grab of the week. You make it, you custom paint it, you decal it, you do all the work, and they'll come out with it.
A big thanks to everybody that watches to the end, that has hit like, hit subscribe, as well as made comments in the past. It's those actions that help share this content, so if you haven't checked out other episodes, feel free to do so. You can also check out the tour of the GN in 1970, as well as the past episodes of the GN in 1970.
70s.
You make it, you custom paint it, you decal it, you do all the work, and they'll come out with it.